Hi, I am Dave Butler. This is Real Questions. I am so thrilled that I was invited to host this edition of it. I'm such a big fan, by the way, of asking questions. I always have been. I'm just a question asker, y'all, but I think it's important to bring together people with their different and collective wisdom and experiences and to bring these issues out and work through them and solve them. Today, we have got a question that is so timely and also really sensitive. We've got a special guest. Her name is Natalie. She's from North Carolina, a young woman who lives out in North Carolina who asked such a spectacular and brave question. And then after I introduce you to her, I've got two other special guests that we're going to bring on to really kind of hear what they want to say and and just talk through this all together. Everyone, I want to introduce you to my friend, Natalie. Hi, Natalie. So Natalie is here with us and she submitted a question. She said, I've seen so much division lately and people are saying and doing things that go against the prophet's call to root out racism and to be unified. How do I stand up for what I know is right, but also be a peacemaker at the same time? Okay, so maybe this is something that you're seeing at school or in your group of friends or something like that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what are you seeing happening?
I just see people being unkind to others just based on something they can't control, and it's just hard to know what to do in those situations. They just don't know how it can come off, and I feel like you should tell them that they shouldn't act like that, but then you don't want to be rude about it.
Well, I think this is such a good topic. It is. You're not the only person in the world who struggles with this, and I think it's something that we need to bring out into the open and discuss. What is the practical? What do we do? How do we balance these two really good feelings that we have in our hearts? And so I want to introduce you to some people who are going to help us out with this. One of them is Sister Michelle Craig. She is the first counselor in the Young Women General Presidency. And I also want to introduce Brother Ahmad Corbitt. He is the first counselor in the Young Men General Presidency also. So welcome, you two. We're so glad you're here.
We're so happy to be here. Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
So Natalie, Sister Craig, and Brother Corbitt already know what your question was, and they've been thinking about that. And so I just want to first have Sister Craig, how about you? Let's hear what you think about this conflict that she is having and trying to resolve. What do you want to say?
Okay, well, first off, Natalie, I want to tell you how much I love you. And I love your heart. And I think it just reflects goodness that you're probably in school and hearing a lot of hard things, and you have a desire to follow the prophet and love like Jesus Christ loves. Regardless of what's going around us, if your motivation is love for God and love for others, the two great commandments, if that's the umbrella, I think that will speak louder than words. And you are a light. We can see that. And I think your light will shine brightly. I talked in General Conference about seeing others deeply. That's something that's dear to my heart. And it's something I pray about and I've been working on for a long time. And, I think really if we could see ourselves and see others deeply, and as Heavenly Father does, that most problems in our society would fade away. So I don't want to sound simplistic, but Natalie, I think it's one thing you could do. I think it's one thing we all need to do, is really to pray to have eyes to see ourselves and others as God does.
One of the things that seems like Natalie's got the kind of heart that will always treat people of every race and ethnic and religious background really kindly. Is there ever a spot for her to speak up in defense, to interject and to say, wait, what you're saying is not right? What advice do you think y'all would give her about when she observes and sees, because it feels like there were times that, Jesus turned over tables, and there were times that he was, I don't know, what kind of principles do y'all think you would give her about that when she hears it, when she sees it?
Can I ask Natalie a question? Can I ask you a question, Natalie? So what do you do? You're 14. Are you in ninth grade? Okay. So what do you do? I mean, you see people smoke. Sadly, you probably see people drink. You may hear people curse. What do you do when people are doing those kinds of wrong things?
I try to, like, sometimes if it's people I'm close to or like I know well, I'll try to tell them like it makes me uncomfortable, and a lot of time they like won't do it around me, and that makes it easier to be like, it's like I try not to put myself in situations where I'm around stuff like that, but whenever I happen to be in one, that's what I try to do.
I mean, that's the perfect answer to your question, because people just need to be around you for a little bit. They say a nasty word or something like that that's racist, and they'll see your reaction and you're not buying into it. They'll kind of get that message. Whether you just not say anything, or whether you say, you know what, that actually makes me uncomfortable because I see everybody as my brother and sister. Another thing I would do, and that Jesus did, is he went and sought out people who felt belittled or marginalized, and he was mocked for it and judged for it, but it's not kind of something he did as well. So there's a way to react to somebody who's being nasty. There's also an affirmative thing to do to reach out to others as well.
I love that. Brother Butler, so I was thinking about this, and I thought how Jesus Christ is our perfect example in all things. He lived in a society that was very divided, but Jesus Christ always did the will of his Father, and he never compromised. Like Brother Butler said, there were times he turned over tables. He made people angry, but his motive was love. Again, love for his Father, and he always wanted to do the things that his Father had asked him, and he loved others. And I think that if your motive is always love, you can stand up for those on the margins. And when you see and hear things that hurt your heart or that you know aren't right, I think you can defend and speak truth. And when it's done with love, you can feel peaceful and know in your heart you've done the right thing, even if others take it wrong. I mean, people got angry at Jesus Christ. But I think we can follow his example in all things and see deeply, stand up for others, stand up for the will of the Father. And as you do this, and if love is your motive, I think that will come through.
I mean, that's so encouraging to someone who might feel like, I don't have the right words to say.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to bumble through this or offend them or her or him or whatever, but to know like, oh, you don't need the perfect script. You just need love.
You know, when you think of some of his examples and some of his parables and some of the people he related to, it was the Samaritan, it was the leper. He just had that kind of heart. He just reached out to folks. And you just seem to have that kind of heart. Doesn't your sister Craig? I mean, she just seems to have that kind of.
Yeah.
And you know what, Natalie? Also, I don't know if your parents are listening or not, or if they'll see this, but I congratulate your parents. Look at that kind of home you grew up in, that nurtured, that wonderful spirit that you are, and your heart that's so inclusive of everyone. I would counsel with your parents and say, Mom, Dad, what's your counsel to me that I should do about this situation, or if I encounter this or that?
Man, that's like Alma says, remember, Alma says the word of God was more powerful than any other weapon. And the word God would speak would be love. That's why it's more powerful. And all of that is so applicable. I think someone can take that today and run with it and start doing something to really make a difference in their communities, in their families, in their friend groups. And that is just beautiful.
Amen.
Thank you all. One more question for you before we go. What do you think you're going to kind of take with you from this conversation? Something that you might do or think differently as a disciple of Christ, right? Which so clearly you want to be. What are you going to take from this conversation?
Good question.
I think what I've learned is that I need to show or tell people when something like makes me uncomfortable, when people do things like that, and then they'll most likely not do it around me, and if they don't, then I probably should just not be around them at all.
Natalie, I think it's beautiful that you asked the question, that you're like, I'm not going to ignore the pain and the hurt here. I want to enter into it. And it might cause me some pain and hurt, but that is what love demands. And it is so reflective. I am not nervous for you because, like Sister Craig has said, and Brother Corbitt, you have a heart that is golden and filled with love in Jesus, and you won't go wrong. Okay, thank all of y'all for coming together for this. This has been really fun, number one, and it's been so good. It is so important to bring these issues out, to like talk about them, to work through them, to gather people, like Brother Corbitt said earlier, to like, we have to work through these and discuss them, and no good happens if we just keep them in our own minds and in our hearts. So thank you for being brave and putting yourself out there and asking the question. Now things can move forward because it's here for us to discuss. This is just the beginning of a long disciples journey that I'm so excited to be on with people like y'all. Okay, everybody, we will see you next time on Real Questions. Bye.
Bye.